Welcome to Comedy Centric, your place for all things comedy. Every week, we'll discuss the legends and the people who built the business. The performers, writers, behind the scenes, and stories that you have never heard. So relax, take a load off, and join us for this episode of Comedy Centric. Now, the host of your show, nationally headlining comedian, a woman with a wicked sense of humor and a killer Jersey accent, Julia Scotti.
Well, hi-de-ho, everybody. That's my Bing Crosby impression, I think. This person next to me is one of my best friends. She's close. She's almost at the top. My friend, she's my good friend, my buddy for life. Kathy Caldwell. Say hi, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. What's making you sport the hat tonight? Is it the
Well, I'll tell you.
Rain?
What happened was I washed my hair this morning, which I should never do on a rainy day. And then I had to go out, so I had my raincoat has a hood on it, and it flattened my hair out, so I looked like a Dick Tracy villain, which is our guest will get that reference. Mm-hmm. You won't, because you don't know who Dick Tracy is.
I know who Dick Tracy is. What do you think, of a moron?
No, you're just young. You're just a young person.
Warren Beatty played Dick Tracy in the...
Yeah, but there was a comic strip, and he had a
villain. He had the hat, and he had
all right.
Insulting my intelligence, man.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
I had something else to tell you today. People were... did we talk about the toilet paper yesterday, right?
Yeah, we talked about the toilet paper. What the hell else were you going to tell me about?
I don't know. We were going to talk about something else, and I can't remember what it was. You were supposed to write it down. What? Come on now.
It's my responsibility. Well, we were going to talk about the fish. Remember the guys that were doing the fishing?
Oh, yeah. Okay. There was fraud. Everywhere. And then there was fraud for stupid reasons. Do you want to read the story? Do you have the story?
I don't have the story, but I'll recap. So There was a fishing tournament, and they were fishing for walleye in Cleveland. It was like on the Lake Erie, and these two guys, their walleye, they weighed them, and they weighted like almost twice as much as what it should weigh. It'd be like looking at me. It'd be like looking at me, or going, yeah, she weighs 50 pounds. It'd be like, wait a minute, you're not gauging that right. So these guys, I guess, been doing this for a while. So they got suspect, and they were like chants, like, hang the fish guys. And so they cut one of the walleye open.
Wait, they really chanted that?
No, they
hang
didn't.
The fish guys?
Not until after.
Oh, okay.
They cut the fish open, and there was like a lead weight. Literally lead weights, and
they other fish too, right? Didn't they shove other fish?
They stuffed them with fish and lead, and they ran those guys out of town. They're going to press charges. They
ran them out on a bamboo pole.
They did, because there was like $29,000 in prize money, and these guys have been doing this for a while.
This was the part that made me laugh. Now they're banished from fishing.
Oh, they can't fish
anywhere in the world now. Their entire career is over. But I just picture these guys showing up in Tierra del Fuego for the annual bass fishing tournament. And they go,
do you have internet? Oh, good.
Yeah, these poor bastards. Now they got to get a real job.
But now they're saying, like, they're gonna, as a precaution, maybe in years to come, they'll maybe x-ray the fish and do different things to check out the validity of the fish.
Yeah, check out the fish's credentials.
Man, women will find any way to cheat.
This is true. Well, we talk about credentials. It's a segue into our guest. I'm going to ask you a question.
The hat makes you smarter.
I know. You didn't even ask where the hat's from.
Well, I didn't ask you where it's from. I just asked you what prompted you wearing it. So where's the hat from?
Well, the hat is from the Malka-Chunk Opera House. Malka-Chunk.
Where's that?
It's up in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's PA.
I was there last year. It's a wonderful old theater. I was there with Anita Wise. We were both.
That hack. Anita. I love Anita.
I do too.
No, I'm just kidding.
On to this. So let me ask you a question now.
No, let me correct that so people know I love Anita and I think she's very funny, and that was a joke.
Okay, I'm going to read names to you. Olympia Dukakis. I love saying her name. Alan Alda. Jackie Collins. Christopher Lee. Al Pacino. Liza Minnelli. Whoopi Goldberg. Kate Winslet. Ellen Burstyn. Nancy Sinatra. Patrick Swayze. George Carlin. And Jerry Seinfeld. What do all of these people have in common? They were all interviewed by our guest today, who is a writer. Don't get him off of there yet. Get him off of there, because I didn't get to do my song. His name is Bill Ervolino, but I wrote a tribute song to him. It's a parody from The Music Man to the theme of Gary, Indiana. You might not recognize it when I sing it. No, that's not it. No, here you go. You ready? It's just like,
go ahead.
All right, so his name is Bill Ervolino. So it's like, Billy Ervolino, Billy Ervolino, Billy Ervolino. Da, 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 da. Okay, that's it. So Bill Ervolino is here today, and now we can bring him on. Hi, Bill.
Good evening. How are you?
All right. How are you doing?
Good. I've been writing down all the things you've been saying because I have a story for every one of those.
I'm sure you do. Okay. You interviewed the fish?
I did go to Jim Thorpe. Well, as soon as you said that Mochunk, whatever it was.
Muckachunk.
That's what it used to be called.
That's what it's still called.
Well, no, now it's called Jim Thorpe.
Oh, the town.
Yeah, nobody came when it had that name. So
What's her hat from, Jim? Or
is that what
Bill? Where's her hat from? Like,
I can't.
Theater, the Opera House, Muckachunk
Opera House. The Opera
okay.
House. Oh, okay.
But it's he's not even from there.
No, he's not from there. He never visited there. He never even heard of it. But I think they made some kind of a deal with his widow to
have his remains moved.
People would come there.
Isn't that weird? It's like Field of Dreams for a dead guy.
It's a nice place for about 2.5 days, 3 days to just hang around.
It's beautiful. I love it.
It's
like Graceland in Atlanta.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of I can't remember the name of the place. So where the Sundance Film Festival is. Where is that?
Utah.
Utah. Yes, Park City, Utah.
There you go.
It reminds me of Park City, Utah a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Billy.
So, Bill, thank you for joining us. So you're still currently, I mean, Julia gave a big intro for you. That was still with the record?
Yeah, I actually retired in 2019.
Oh, okay.
And they asked me to come back and start writing columns again, just one day a week, Sundays.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
And that's what, I retired because, well, whatever. I don't know. It's getting old. But
you're not really retired because something wonderful is going on. And you want to tell us what that is?
Well, I mean, aside from the fact that I also do like stand up here and I do speaking there, I wrote another play. I wrote my first one in 1987.
Oh, wow.
So every 43 years I write another one. And but anyway, I wrote it and I sent it to a theater on Long Island, and where I spent part of my time. And I got an email 3 days later that we want to produce your play. It's hysterical. So I said, okay.
Like I held this up in the beginning. Can you see it? Of course, that is you. Even though you look like John Neggy in this picture. You know John Neggy?
John Neggy, yes, the artist. My father, was he? No, he didn't do the Japanese stuff, though.
No, he was the Learn to Draw.
Yeah, I know he was Learn to Draw, but there was another artist that did these things with a brush, and he would make these penguin things, And my father watched this, and over the next 3 weeks, there were these penguins. He was painting them. My mother had a laundry basket. He's penguins all over. He's painting on the railing going down the stairs. He just got this. He was crazy, and there was just these little penguin things with 3 brush strokes, and it looked like a penguin.
This book, and I bought it when we first time we met, rekindle our acquaintanceship, and it had me laughing out loud, and I hated you. Because you were much funnier than I was, and I just don't like that. But that's right. You share the Italian American experience in a beautiful, beautiful way, and I'm sure that the play is also reflective of that, correct? The new play.
Yeah, well, both plays. The first one is about an Italian family at Christmas time that is having a lot of dysfunction going on, and then the second one is a comedy about an Italian family in Flushing in 1983 or 84. I'm still checking on that. And that's more of a comedy where somebody comes to the house who changes everybody's life.
Which I read. That's the one you sent me, right? Was that the one? Yeah, it was very funny.
Yes, because you sent me your play to read.
But you didn't say anything.
I did. I got back to you immediately. You said, "What did you read?"
It's all about her, Bill. It's all about her.
How did you manage to read it so quickly? I'm like, "What do you read? What do you want from me?" You send it to people, they want to read it, and then they start to read it on the phone. It's like reading War and Peace on your phone. Yeah. Right. After a minute, they're bored already because you don't read anything like that long on a phone.
Well, let me ask you a question. And we all three of us, Kathy, I, and of course you, are writers, and our writing is primarily for stage. I mean, we get that response immediately, and you do stand up, but I think primarily you're essayist, a humorist, playwright.
Yeah, I started writing a column. I don't even know if you know this story, but I started writing in the column in 1976. I was working at a weekly paper on Long Island, and I had just finished college, well, I didn't finish it, but I left, and I got a job at a newspaper as the editor of a weekly newspaper. That's where I met Jerry Seinfeld's father for the first time. He used to come in our office every morning and say, "Oh, my son's going to be famous someday." And we'd be like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So anyway.
Why would he come into your office? What was his?
Because he was a local celebrity. He would come in. In addition,
wait, Seinfeld's father was a local celebrity?
Yes, he had a business. I forget what the business was, but he also made signs that for all.
And his name, Seinfeld.
And he was signing the name SINFELD. And I'm trying to think of his name. His first name just went right out of my head. But so he would come in to this paper and the other paper. There were two papers in town, and he knew everything. He knew everybody's business. He all morning. He'd come in for coffee, talk to us, and Cal Seinfeld. So, and when Jerry got his first Tonight Show appearance, because Jerry used to appear, I don't know if you remember the White House Inn.
Oh, sure. We were just talking to somebody about that place.
Richard M. Nixon, he was like a Nixon lookalike, and he had a comedy club. And Jerry appeared there, also Eddie Murphy and other people from Long Island. Anyway, Jerry got his first Tonight Show appearance, and so Cal took out an ad in the paper, and a picture of Jerry, something like "The Promise of a Dream Fulfilled. Catch Jerry Seinfeld in his Tonight Show debut, blah, blah, blah." This was in the 70s, it had to be the end of the 70s. And
no, he didn't get his first Tonight Show until 80-something, because I was at the Improv at that point, and he hadn't gotten it yet.
Well, I have to check this. Yeah. Anyway, later I told Jerry about it when I interviewed him so many years later, and I didn't even know Cal had died. I mean, I'd been gone from Long Island for 10 years already. And but and he's like, "Oh, I never knew that." Like, he never knew his father had done that.
Really?
And anyway, what can I tell you? Wow. So he was, and he was, very acclaimed as the great technical comedian of the 80s. He was, all of the older comics loved him. And whenever I would interview like Alan King, "Oh, who do you like today?" Yeah, this Jerry Seinfeld kid. And Jerry's been like 10 years already. He's been, and but anyway, I don't think anybody predicted that the show, which incidentally, when the show started, I remember watching it. It wasn't what it became. It was not yet
right.
And people just didn't like it. And then I think when they brought in the Elaine character and they kind of hit this pace, I think the puffy shirt episode was the one that really said,
that was
what this show is about. And from there, it just flew.
Well, it reminds me, and it seems like every week I come back to this episode where we had Bill Persky on and talking about the early days of the Dick Van Dyke Show and how it got canceled. And it wasn't, he wrote, him and Sam Denoff wrote the Coast to Coast Big Mouth Show where Mary Tyler Moore reveals that Alan Brady's wearing a piece. And that was, it kind of, that was season 1, I think. And it was the same sort of thing. It seems like one episode, it clicks in people's heads. And also Seinfeld had summer reruns, right? There was a summer replacement, right?
Yeah. Do you remember? Do you know that the Dick Van Dyke Show was started out as a Carl Reiner vehicle?
Yeah, we were talking about that. The Head of the Family was the name of it. Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't see that episode. I have to look for it.
Oh, you can find that. It's up there. It's
a
great episode.
I mean, I would see it whenever those names come up, and I remember them from my childhood. I think I was the only kid that read the credits on the TV shows, but I was
me too.
And
I always loved that.
The fun part about Bill is you could just go blue, and he would go to do like 15 minutes just on, and he'd go and let me tell you something about red, and he just kind of.
I know
everything was a memory.
When you mentioned Warren Beatty, I had if you want to hear a story about that, I just had. I was doing my second. I had done 2 interviews with Liza Minnelli, and the second one was going to be at the Russian Tea Room in an afternoon, and I had been there before, but I did not know how that back room worked. And it's apparently where you're sitting is how important you are, like those booths in the back. Do you know how that works?
I've never been in there. No, I didn't. This is the first time hearing about it.
I mean, I had no idea. I usually sat in the front, or they put you next to the bathroom or something. And so, but anyway, so I go there, and I'm supposed to meet Liza Minnelli and her Alan, her publicist. And so I get there early, as you try to do when you have an important meeting, and they put me at the table at this booth. Now I'm at the second booth. The first booth is this very white-looking man with a much younger girl, and so he looks at me and he's smiling and he says, "How are you doing?" And I said, "Fine," And I'm like, "Who is this guy?" I didn't recognize yet who it was, and then I realized that all these other people in the room are looking at me, and they're like smiling at me, and I'm like, huh? What's like what? And I was getting so self-conscious. I had my pad with me, and I just started looking, and so the guy now talks to me again, and then I realized it's Warren Beatty. That's when he was making Ishtar. And
no wonder he was so pale.
Yeah, he was very pale that day, and so there's more to that actually. So anyway, I make some more small talk with him, and I'm like, why is he's talking to me like we're old friends or something? But in his mind, it's like, I must know this guy, and I don't know who he is.
Or you wouldn't be sitting there.
Anyway, everyone's sitting there, and I'm just like, I'm sweating, like I'm having some kind of anxiety attack. And then, of course, Liza Minnelli comes in, and everybody's like, oh, it's Liza Minnelli. He's just a piece of shit from Long Island. We're not like, this is not somebody.
Yeah. How was she?
Well, she was great. I interviewed her before, and then she had to get up and go kiss Warren. And then she says, he looks terrible, doesn't he? He looks so white. And then she said, I shouldn't say that yet. This was the 80s when everybody was getting sick and everything. And so she was like, but he did look very, very white. I don't know why.
I never pictured him as being really white for some reason.
He's very pale looking.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that.
I always thought of him as George Hamilton,
No,
he was not. Well, maybe because he was making a movie that was set in a time or whatever where he was not supposed to be tan. I don't know. Right. But
Bill, who's the most famous person you've ever encountered? I know it's probably hard to qualify, but
I fell on Sean Connery.
That's what I wanted to bring that up. And you peed next to Keith Hernandez. Oh no, you peed next to Mark Hamill, and you fell on Sean Connery. Okay.
I peed next to Mark Hamill, and now I'm going to forget the guy's name. The guy who played Aiden on Sex and the City, and he was John Corbett.
Yeah, John Corbett.
Yeah, I peed next to him. Hi.
I peed next to Bill Cullen once.
Oh, really? How was that?
I was shocked because I didn't know that he had polio, and he came away from the urinal. For those of you who don't know,
how I knew that because my father would see him in the city a lot. But go ahead.
You never saw him walk on television. That's why, because he had crutches. He was.
Where were you being? Was this at your house or?
No, it was at 30 Rock. I was at 30 Rock.
That's where I came. I went up the elevator with Keith Hernandez.
Oh, that's a sign.
And, I don't like to bother. I'm used to it now. I've been going into the city since I was 12. I grew up in Queens, which I guess is New York City. But from the time I was 12, I would just get on the train and go in and look for people. I just love doing that with my friends or whatever. And occasionally I'd see a Merv Griffin or somebody coming out of a theater, and I start yelling. But
When you yelled, did you yell like Arthur Treacher? Did you yell like Arthur Treacher and go, "Mervin"?
No, I yelled, "He's got gray hair," and I knew that he would. I knew that he would respond to that, as opposed to, "Oh, Merv, I love you," whatever. Because he was coming out of the theater, I guess they taped or whatever, and there was a crowd, and I yelled, "He's got gray hair," and then he said, "Of course, I'm 85 years old," which was not true. He was much younger, but my father used to love him all the time.
Well, how did you fall on Sean Connery?
I fall on Sean Connery. I had 2 interviews that were not quite back to back. I was interviewing Mary Gross from Saturday Night Live.
I love her.
And Donna Summer, who had a new album out, and they were like 2 hours in between.
That hack. I'm just kidding.
So I'm on Madison Avenue somewhere, and I'm just window shopping in stores that I can't afford anything in. And I see there's a Western store called Billy Martin's, no relation to the manager, and they're having a half price sale on cowboy boots. And I saw these, and it said elk boots, and they were on sale for $125. This is like in the 80s, so this is a lot of money for a pair of boots, but I could afford $125. So I go in, and it's a real boutique-y type place. There's like only one little love seat to sit down on, and there's a woman and her daughter with 900 boxes in front of them. They're trying on like every shoe in the store. And I'm like, oh, damn it. So anyway, I start to try on these boots, these elk boots, big feet, and I wanted to get the right fit. And so a man, in the corner of my eye, I see this man walking with a cowboy hat, a beard, and a gigantic fur coat. And I kind of registered, like, is this somebody famous? But I was busy, and I'm trying these things on, and all of a sudden, standing up, I've got my winter coat on, I'm putting these on, and I fall backwards, and he catches me, and he's like, "Oh, there, are you okay?" And I hear his voice, and I'm like, "Oh my God." As James Bond just came.
Oh my God.
And I look up and I see Sean Connery's face and looking at me and just like, just like a nice person who's helping someone. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, I'm so embarrassed. And he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Fine." And I just kept laughing. I didn't know what, I had nothing. I didn't want to embarrass him, as embarrassed as I was that I had fallen on him. And
he didn't say, "I'm Bond." James Bond.
Nothing of the kind. He just, and I could see him walking around and not even being recognized because of the beard and the hat, and he kept down. I guess he's someone that was very, very famous.
Was he tall? Oh, he struck me as tall. He always struck me as tall.
Yeah.
He was well built.
What's that?
He was tall. I thought he was
He
shorter.
wasn't as tall as I am. I'm 5'7". He was like 6. He was tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, he looked even taller in a full length, mink coat, whatever he was wearing. I don't know what it was. So anyway, I leave there and I buy the boots and I go to the Donna Summer interview. And I had interviewed her before, so she was, "Hi, Bill," and she goes, "What's in the box?" And I said, "Oh, I bought these boots. They're elk. They're like the black butter." And so I opened the box and I said, "Feel these boots." And she goes, "I'm not going to touch your boots." And I said, "I was putting on these boots when I fell on Sean Connery." And she goes, "Oh," and then she touched them. And it was cute. And yeah, so anyway, so that was the day. I said that was the day that Sean Connery picked me up. Anyway, it was.
You still have the boots, Bill?
What's that?
You still have the boots?
I think they're downstairs somewhere. I mean, I was, I think 9.5 or 10 now. I'm 11.5. My feet just keep growing.
Wow.
How could your feet grow?
Well, they say your feet and your ears grow.
I'll tell you why. This is interesting. I think because I work at home most of the time, so I don't wear shoes a lot. And I think if you're not wearing shoes and you walk around, I think would you kill something? I think
these stupid fruit flies is flying in front of me.
I know, it just drives me crazy. But anyway, I think your feet do get bigger.
Your nose is supposed to grow.
I always wore boots because I just felt shoes. I thought they were ugly, first of all, and I just didn't like. I don't know. I didn't like them. I never liked shoes.
Were you wearing boots when I came to your house?
What's that?
I was at your house. I didn't see you in boots.
I was probably barefoot then.
Yeah, I like that. I love running around. I don't like.
I usually make wine in the evenings, and no. So anyway, so I when bell bottoms came in, I thought, oh, they'll never go out of style because they cover the shoe and always the front. Because I thought, I don't know, I don't know why I had this thing about shoes. I just never liked wearing them.
But the boots make a statement too.
Well, the other thing is that I have a triple E.
Oh,
so
it's a wide.
I used to have to get the really ugly, the ugliest shoes, and now they don't even make them anymore.
Triple E.
You have to go to special places like countries with 3 E's in them or something because they don't have them.
Do you know, like in Europe, they don't measure shoes like we do. They measure shoes.
No.
They're like a 35 is a small shoe.
Yeah.
A 35, 36. Like, that would be devastating to me. I have a big enough foot as it is.
No, everything's little in Europe.
My parents used to yell at me for coming into the house with a big pair of work boots, and my mother was like getting mad. She goes, "Why do you have such big feet? You know, my father had like an 8.5. My brother has 8.5, and I have 11.5. So I don't know what it's about. What can I tell you?"
So let's get back to the Italian American thing for a minute, because Kathy can tell you that I'm a devout Italian American. I'm a proud Italian American, and we are actually the original Latinos and Latinas since we invented Latin, I think.
Okay.
But I am a Latin Italian, as I like to say.
2% Jewish.
But 2% Jewish according to my DNA.
Yeah.
There used to be it's a niche market. I mean, your books, while they're all well written, but they it seems to me they would appeal to the East Coast, Northeast Italian American.
I guess so. When I travel, people are just, they talk about Italians or they see Italians in movies or whatever, and so you're kind of like a special. I grew up thinking, okay, you're black, you're Italian, you're Jewish, or you're American. That was
right.
That was how it worked in my house.
Right.
So if you were Irish or German, you were just American, and so everything else. I remember when AOL started, I was in a chat room, and I was talking to somebody in Arkansas or somewhere, and we're talking for a while, having this conversation, and I said, "Oh, I'm Italian." He goes, "Oh, I thought you were white."
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that, and I remember also, you see these people. I remember once on Big Brother, the TV show Big Brother, there was a girl. They only allow you one book in the house if you want a book, and that's the Bible. That's the only thing you can bring in. And she walked around with this Bible. She was always reading the Bible. And she got in a conversation with somebody from New York once about, Jews? What are they like? What are this? What are that? And I'm like, what is this book you're reading? Did you miss the chapter on Jews? I mean, it's like the whole first half of the book. So, but it's kind of weird. Just people don't know. People in the New York area where I grew up, I mean, they seem to know everything. But the people in the middle of the country, when you ask about things, and they just don't have that experience.
Well, they immediately go to the stereotypes, and they, it's hard not to buy into that, because that's I always get angry with the guy on the pizza box, the guy twirling his mustache,
Yeah.
Hey, that's on my pizza, But that's people's.
I did a story about how many pizza names in our area in North Jersey where I live are based on, Goodfellas Pizza, Sopranos.
Yes.
They're all, a lot of them, and even Little Caesar. I mean, Little Caesar, they have a little, Julius Caesar now, but Little Caesar was a gangster, an Italian.
Edward G. Robinson, who was Jewish for that,
You know what struck me as ironic? This just this week when Sasheen Littlefeather died.
Oh, yeah.
She got up and she accepted the Oscar. Did not accept the Oscar, turned it down. Because of the way this was at Brando's behest.
She was his proxy.
The movie treated Native Americans. Meanwhile, he's winning this award for playing Vito Corleone, which is like, he's like this. I mean, a lot of people I know who are Italian still will not watch the Godfather movies or the Sopranos. They just think it's a slur against Italians. I don't happen to feel that way, but I mean, a lot of people do. So I thought it was ironic, really, that they're turning it down for one thing, and he was doing something else that so many Italians found offensive.
Well, we tend to, as Italians, we tend to, go, oh, that's not us. But then we secretly kind of are proud of it too. So we're always caught in the middle of this whole thing. We're almost like a people without identity.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of the these movies, to me, even though they maybe have bad characters in them, they do represent Italian families better than anything. I mean, I guess Moonstruck was nice. It came much later. But, I would see, I had interviewed this guy, Marlon Briggs. He's now passed away. He was a documentary maker about how blacks were treated on television in the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying here. But I said, when I saw Italians on television, it was the pizza mia. It was always for comic relief. I never saw, Italians portrayed in any kind of a nice way. And even on sitcoms, you'd have, they bring in Kay Ballard towards the end of the run, hey, Mamma Mia, and she starts screaming. And
the big ragu from Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah. I mean, just like somehow Italians were just funny.
Yeah.
And loud and obnoxious and possibly dangerous. So as much as
all of that is true, but it's not, it's not a universal either. We're not all loud and obnoxious and possibly dangerous. We also are responsible for some of the greatest literature and art the world has ever seen.
Tell me, but I mean, I'm just saying that's what
I'm telling you.
That's what I grew up with, and I think that it was, while I could hear somebody say, I didn't see blacks on television, or when the movie Celluloid Closet, people are saying like, I didn't see myself reflected in movies or whatever. So you've got all of these groups of people. I think there's even a word for the dialect that sitcoms used. It's not quite East Coast or West Coast. It's just there
is a name for it. Yes,
that everybody talked on television, and and if you veered away from that, then you were a comic figure or a villain of some kind.
Well, you bring up a good point when you say that we didn't see ourselves represented, and Kathy and I were talking about this on a previous show about Bros coming out and the disappointing numbers over the weekend. It was, I think its opening weekend did $8 million. I went to see it Friday when it opened because I'm in it. But aside from that, it's a funny movie.
Well, I didn't see it because I'm not in it. But no, I want to go see it. But I was surprised by that also. But I remember when the first Sex and the City movie came out, it was not something I was going to rush out to see, but my cousin had just been involved in a breakup, and I called her up Friday night. It was just happened to be the night, and she said that it opened, and I said, let me go. I'll take you out somewhere. She said, would you take me to see Sex and the City? And I'm like, oh my god, because I knew it was going to be like all women going to see this movie, especially on opening weekend. And sure enough, I take her, and it's like two men, me and someone else, in the entire theater. So I felt really like, like I was in the Planet of the Apes or something. I'm like, oh my god, so how do I not get noticed here? And that first opening sequence where the two men kiss, and this is on Long Island.
We're talking about Sex and the City?
The City.
I didn't see the movie, so I didn't know that. Okay.
During the opening credits, the girls are meeting each other and walking, and they see this hot-looking guy, and then he goes over and kisses another guy, and they scream in disgust. And I was like, are we still at this point? I mean, is this serious? Mm-hmm. And it was. And that really was like, and I think even people that consider themselves to be allies or whatever, or say they are, they're just something about two men doing things that they just don't, they just respond viciously.
Yeah, we like to, I mean, the people like to think they're sophisticated, but at its heart, this movie is really just a sweet rom-com story. It's got, and I said this to Kath, I said if it had Tom Hanks and Christ, I can't remember her name.
Meg Ryan
in it, it would be, it's the same movie.
Or if it had Meg Ryan and Jennifer Aniston.
I think
that might be different too.
I think another factor though is that movies that are not, Marvel movies or whatever, people are just like, oh, it'll be on TV in a month. I'll wait. And so a lot of these movies that a lot of big stars, I mean, all of them are doing television. Kate Winslet and Kate Blanchett and Nicole Kidman. I don't know how many movies she's been doing on television. And I think that that's just something that has happened between the pandemic and also just the fact that if it's not a big thing now, they wait till they know it's going to be on cable or streaming in a month. So that's
right. But I think in the case of Bros, the politics matters. The politics matter. It's done. It has not done well in the Midwest and in the obviously the Bible Belt's not going to, but I think even in the bigger cities, I know they had a good opening night in LA because Billy Eichner tweeted about it, and it was sold out. The shows were sold out. But like I said, I'm in Jersey. We're not hillbillies by any stretch of the imagination. But this is a red county that I live in, and there were 4 people in that theater. 6 people. I'm sorry, 6
Yeah,
people.
I think a lot of people, when they looked at I mean, even the commercials, it looks fun. It looks like a fun, happy
It is.
movie, that's not going to really offend anybody. But I think that people like to see themselves in something like that if they're going to go to see it.
Okay, if that was Shrek,
when they did that, yes,
body,
Shrek was really a good example.
Yeah, well, but Shrek, you're talking about kids. You're going to take young kids, and that's a whole other.
Yeah, no, I think if you've ever seen Celluloid Closet, I had to write a whole thing about it, and I also was friendly with Vito Russo's mother because she was a reader of mine in New Jersey, and so she used to call me all the time.
Who's Vito Russo?
Vito Russo wrote the Celluloid Closet. He's considered he was an early proponent of gay marriage, and like in the 70s when a lot of gays were like, gay marriage, like what's the point of that?
But explain what the Celluloid Closet was about.
I'm sorry, it's a document. He wrote a book called Celluloid Closet, and it was about how gay people, mostly men, but all gay people were portrayed in films, and it was not good. Or in the 30s, 40s, and even the 50s, a lot of these characters were coded. So you had like the Edward Everett Horton character, who's kind of whatever, or Franklin Pangborn. And so they're not. No one's saying they're homosexuals or anything because they didn't exist. It was against the code. But it's how they are put into the movie, and often the leading man would have a friend. Burt Reynolds used to do this also. He would have Dom DeLuise, or the guy with 3 names, Riley, Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so the idea was that this character lived in a space between the masculine and feminine. Mm-hmm. He was like an intermediary between the two, the man and the woman in some way. And and he made the man look more manly and the woman look more womanly, supposedly. So
yes.
But yeah, these characters, these were like stock characters in the movies, and there's a bunch of them. If you ever want to see this, it's a really. I wasn't crazy about the movie the first time I saw it because I'm always disappointed with a book movie. But after that, I've watched it many times. I'll watch it with you. It's really, really.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
And it goes all the way back to silent movies.
Oh yeah, sure.
How?
Well, you bring up Franklin Pangborn. Gerald Moore was another one. Moore was another one like that. And the guy, I can't remember his name. He always played waiters, like Hungary. You know the guy I'm talking about?
Yeah. Even later, in the 50s and even in the 60s, you see those people pop up before they died.
Oh, Paul Lynde was, who doesn't? You immediately go into your Paul Lynde impression now.
I don't do impressions, but
you don't have to.
It's interesting once you're aware of these characters, and then as we got more advanced here, we saw gay characters that were killers.
They did that with trans people too. We were always psychopathic.
Yeah, in Freebie and the Bean and The Silence of the Lambs. That character is. You don't know what's going on with that guy.
Oh, yeah. All my trans friends are like that.
Everyone concentrates on that. Meanwhile, there's other guys killing people and eating them, and he's okay. He's fine.
But there are people that believe that. They believe that gay people are, yeah, absolutely.
I want to have a beer with Hannibal Lecter, but that gay character, yeah.
I want to have it. Tried to eat me many times. Like just starting on. I'm out. It's
what I want to do is where the I don't know if they still have it. They used to have the Navy and Army recruiting stations in Times Square. I want to have a gay recruiting station like right in that area, so that just do a sketch
for the overflow.
Well, how the right wing is always saying we're trying to recruit people. I just want to. We'll have some, we'll have people out there just looking fabulous recruiting people. That's just
a whole other thing. I don't know how you're going to recruit anybody, and I think that
sketch
is something that people are afraid of, I guess, and that's what they respond to. Oh, you're going to. I heard this today. Yesterday. Something about Marco Rubio saying that the left wants to turn your boys into little girls or something, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about.
You know what? They punch down. And they go for the perceived weakest of us, and they try to make us the enemy, and so that there's a villain that you can, and that's what all of them are doing. They're just,
but that again, it goes back to bros and its lack of sales. I think if mainstream America, I hate using that term, but but you know what I'm talking about, straight white America.
Well, I think it's if it's become a political thing, if that's why, because I thought we were past this, frankly. But if it is a political thing, and the way they're politicizing trans kids, it's really horrible. And
they're a pawn
all the time, and it's just they jump on things that people don't understand.
Right.
Excuse me. I remember having an argument with somebody on Facebook when I used to write about anything that in the news, and I stopped doing that. But wait until they're 18. Don't do this when they're children. And I'm like, you are taking away this person's childhood if you do that.
I'll tell you, I was at a
6'4" girls, because they're just going to, you're not stopping this from happening. And I think often of Chastity. I look back on the Sonny and Cher show, and they would bring out Chastity and all these very feminine dresses, and I would see her, and she'd be like,
I
don't think she liked that, but it never occurred to me until now when I look at it now, and it's like,
she doesn't look comfortable at all. No,
I'm not a trans person. I don't understand how this works, but I think, even as when dress on, I feel like I would feel terribly uncomfortable. So, Halloween.
Yeah, I got it, but I did a benefit about a month ago in Connecticut for Connecticut Voice Honors. They were honoring LGBT supporters and whatnot, and they gave this hero award to this young girl, trans girl. Her and her mama. They should have given it to her mama. They were from Texas. They lived in Texas, and this girl, she knew very early on that she was a girl, and she dressed as a girl. Her mother was supportive of her, loved this kid, and the school district just shut it down. They were getting threats. The mama, packed them all up. Single mom, drove across country and wound up in Connecticut, a very welcoming state. The state just took this family in their arms and just loved her. And this kid, I'm telling you, this kid's going to be watch out for her, because she's going to be prominent in politics someday. She's just a natural.
I think I told you when I was in school, we used to hang out at the house of these two girls they were sisters that had a finished basement. So we would usually congregate over there. And the mother, Mrs. Carlson, she had her high school yearbook, and she went to school with George Jorgensen, who became Christine Jorgensen.
Is that right?
And excuse me. And I remember looking at this picture of him, and it was very eerie. I was like, 14, 12, whatever, I don't remember. And I think that there's a natural fear of otherness and whatever.
Yeah.
But these things you can deal with this. I mean, we've seen this. You don't know Black people, you learn to know. You don't know gay people, you don't know this, you don't know that, you don't know Irish people, whatever. You get comfortable with it, and you just like, now I know some of these people. That help. Mm-hmm. It's helpful. As anyone thinking about, the last thing I want is for anything to happen to that part of my body.
Right.
And, it's so you can't help think about that. Like, oh, this is sick. How could you do this? So, but when you start meeting people and you hear their stories and you get to know them and what they've been through, you understand it better. And it's something that's very hard to people to grasp until they meet someone like that. And then when they do, which is why I thank you for what you're doing, and I hope it helps these kids, because
that's what I want. We moved toward that to comedy. I mean, you do stand up, I do stand up, Kathy does stand up. Kathy's the reason I got AGT, and when I got the show, we knew that they wanted me on because I was trans, but I also happen to be funny, so they left it up to us. I had to say it. Nobody else was. But they left it up to us as to whether I was going to come out on do the reveal on the show. We didn't have to, and it wasn't until the very last second that I did. But I did it with great fear and trepidation because I didn't know what was going to happen. And when I saw the audience, there was a moment of dead silence, and then suddenly they just started clapping and standing and cheering. I thought they were coming after me, but I thought, wow, this is the way it should be. This is the way the world should be.
Yeah, they tend to do this on television, but yes. When it's in the same, when they're, I don't know,
safe place.
I don't know.
But I've seen Julia perform in comedy clubs, around the area, and no cameras or anything. And when you've done the reveal, there has been an outpouring of support as opposed to anything else. And I think, if you went back 10, 15 years ago, I don't know if that would be the same response.
Well, I think what the important thing you see from how you did it on America's Got Talent is that you had a funny set. I mean, you didn't do it. You weren't doing trans.
Right.
Stories. We can all do stories about, oh, this happened to me or that happened to me, and this is how I'm different. But you can't do that for a whole career. So you had a funny set, and that's what they responded to. And then the end was just an explosion, really. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's
right.
Work is there. It's funny. It's not something that it's not the only thing you will talk about.
No, but what I've noticed, and Kath can bear me out on this, when I go on tour, when I go anywhere in the country, my audiences are 98% cisgender. I get very little support from the gay or trans community in terms of showing up at my shows.
Yeah,
which fascinates me because it's kind of like a mini version of Bros. I mean, I didn't see any gay guys there, but the 6 people were all lesbians.
Yeah,
which
again, I think if you're funny, that's what people are coming out for, and if you are not, I remember when the Ellen show, when she came out on her sitcom,
right.
And everybody, wow, oh, it was so good, blah blah blah, and then after like 3 weeks, they're like, the show is too gay. It's too gay. Why do they keep talking about this?
Right.
And I'm like, I didn't notice that at all, but I mean, it's just like. Nobody complained that girl was too straight or something. I don't look at things that way. I mean, because I look at so much stuff that there's such a variety of stuff, and I welcome anything that's a little different. Were you aware at that moment that this show is so gay? I mean, did it occur to you that?
So what, the movie or Ellen?
No, Ellen, when after she came out. I mean, she's still a lesbian. What are you gonna, what is this?
Well, that's the thing. Somebody made a comment on Twitter about Bros about I saw the trailer and it was they were shoving that down our throats. I don't need to see that. If I'm not, it's clearly a movie for gay people. I'm like, wait a minute. If this were Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, I could say, oh, it's clearly a movie for straight people. It's about gay. It's about gay men. It's about gay people in general. But it doesn't make it any less funny. It's still a comedy. It's still a love story.
A lot of people who did not go to the theater will probably watch it on streaming.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's not like a Top Gun 2 where the graphics and everything are like,
But as I said earlier, that's the kind of movie. I mean, I went to see that. I don't think I even saw the first Top Gun. I didn't even remember it. But I just figured I want to go to the theater. I want to see,
right,
impress me with something. Right. I don't want to see people talking for 2 hours. I can watch that at home. So, I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to say that he's gay, but the rumor. So he's more of a bottom. He's more of a bottom gun.
I think we'll see.
Come on, that was funny, Bill.
I'm not laughing at that. Actually, I've got to. I wanted to start coughing, but I think that the next weekend will be more important than the first one with this movie. Let's see what happens.
And I think long term too, it's going to be one of those things that gets.
Well, I think definitely people will watch it on TV.
Yeah. But it comes down to comedy. Then does comedy have to pander?
There was a. I've never seen it. There was a movie called Partners, and they had Ryan O'Neal was one of the. There was a cop, and I don't know. I never saw it, but but I guess putting Ryan O'Neal in like hot pants and trying to make him. act gay for a while was acceptable to people because they think it's funny. They see, what Some Like It Hot. They see men in dresses and they think it's funny. A man in a dress is usually funny. That's just how it goes.
Unless it's Milton Berle.
Well, he was pretty funny.
Oh God, he wasn't funny at all.
I don't think it's pandering. I think it's understanding what the audience is going to buy and turn out for.
I think that I never would have thought Philadelphia would have been a hit. It was not just a gay movie, but a movie about AIDS.
Right. Well, Kevin Kline, In and Out was a hit. Was sort of a semi-hit.
They discussed that in Celluloid Closet, and Shirley MacLaine says, sometimes you just find this truth or whatever, and it resonates with people, and then you've got a hit. And she said the audience usually knows, but we don't know. I don't know exactly what that means, but and the fact that Tom Hanks was seen as a harmless person
in Philadelphia,
he's like he just, I guess he's Tom Hanks. What's going to happen? It's going to be fine. And so I don't know.
All right. Well, then let's take a step back. Was Bosom Buddies funny? Why was Bosom Buddies funny? Was that gay?
I don't know. Did you watch that regularly?
It wasn't about being gay. It was about Bosom Buddies was about being like trying to find a place to live, and they cross-dressed to fit in someplace.
Well, it was basically Some Like It Hot, redux for television.
It wasn't about being gay. They were straight guys that lived in an apartment. They were just trying to live there because it was cheap.
Peter Scolari, during the run of the show, he found himself drifting more and more into the character. It was, there were questions about his gender.
But I don't think that was a gay thing.
Okay, but why was that a hit? And and not.
Well,
Bros?
it wasn't
That's
focused.
What I'm saying.
It was focused on things I think people could relate to. It's all about relatability.
I think. Plus, it's the idea of straight men dressing up. It's funny. Then they want to go see their girlfriends later, and so it's just kind of every time they put the dress back on, people just laugh at it because it's. Quentin Crisp said, there is nothing worse than being a woman. That is something that is funny, that if a man dresses as a woman, people laugh. If a woman dresses like a man, nobody laughs. It's not funny. So, there's something ridiculous about being a woman, I guess. And so, I don't know. I don't know why people, it's kind of like, why do people laugh when you fall? They'll start laughing.
Well, that's funny.
It's different, but it's like if you fall, entire books have been written about what makes us laugh and what doesn't. But I do think
you're out of your element and you're trying to portray something that you're not familiar with. And there are people that know how to do that or have done that. And they're like, well, you're an idiot. Well, that's not, how women do that or whatever.
All right, I'm playing hypothetical games here though. What if,
conversation, but go ahead.
What?
I didn't know we were going to go into all this, but go ahead.
I didn't either, but it's a show about comedy, so that's what we talk about, comedy. What if they recast it as a lesbian, recast Bros as a lesbian romance? Would it be more accepted by the public?
The general rule of thumb, as far as the movie business, is that young men are they move tickets on the weekend. I mean, this was before there was a female, 20 Shades of Grey or whatever, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
I remember that we were having a meeting about it when I was still working at the paper that was coming out, and someone said, "Oh, it's going to be the big date movie," and I was like, "Are you kidding? Men are not going to go see this movie." And we had an argument, and men did not go see the movie. They didn't want it. They just thought, just going in there is going to be embarrassing for them.
Well, who went to see Brokeback Mountain? Men and women, or just?
I think it seen more as more of a prestige movie because of who was in it and the reviews it was getting. It was seen as more of a serious movie and an Oscar contender even before people even knew what it was. And it was there was a lot of big stars in that movie.
But it was a love story at its heart. That's what it was.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, as Bros is too.
I always think if they aired it on CBS or something, that they would have to take it. They took after they edited it, it would just be a movie about two men smoking.
And horses. And horses
are in there. Having sex or fighting about it.
That is true.
Yeah. And so anyway, but
which brings us down to where comedy gets no respect at all. It's as comedians, we know we're at the bottom of the show business food chain. Comedy movies are never considered serious.
One of the internal arguments is like, shouldn't have Gloria Swanson or Betty Davis won the Oscar in 1950 instead of Judy Holliday for and
Yesterday?
Performance is absolutely flawless. It is one of the funniest performances I've ever seen for
Judy Holliday.
Yeah, for Born Yesterday. It's and it's touching also, and it's just a great performance. They were all good that year, unfortunately, but they just dismiss her because it's a comedy.
Well, that brings up the question of respect as what we do as comedians and as comic actors, anything and comic writers. That's why this movie, I would be as supportive even if I wasn't in it, and it pisses me off that this movie is not going to move into the pantheon of classic rom-com comedies. It's just a goddamn funny movie.
I think we're moving into an era where none of the stuff that we liked is ever going to be even. I don't find younger people, on a whole, are much interested in the books we read or the movies we saw or anything. I just find it very difficult to get them interested in.
I agree with you there.
Do you find them getting interested in anything? What are they interested in?
You invite millennials over to watch a movie, and this is what you get. And I'm like, what are you doing? You can't. I can listen and do it. I said, this is a movie. I take that very seriously. This is like a religion to me. You don't do that. Either you play with your phone or watch a movie. I'll even say to them, in an hour, I'll stop it for 5 minutes. You can check your messages. I mean, nothing's going to happen that's that breathtaking that you can't wait. And they just don't,
I find that when writing, you write stand-up too. I mean, you can't. My preference is to write storied pieces, where it can, build almost like, short playlets. And you can't, they don't stay with you through the whole thing anymore. It's got to be in and out quick, on to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's so many, it's hard to predict also with stand-up. I would used to do the Gilda's Club shows out here. And we would do we would do shows in the club, Gilda's Club, which is for cancer patients, if anyone doesn't know that, and their families. And then the winners would get to perform at Bananas or whatever. So, and I would always tell them, don't, when you backstage, I would say to them, look, this is the audience you've got here. So I don't know what your material is. A lot of them I didn't know their stuff. I'm just telling you, I'm not going to tell you don't do this, but if you do it and it's not working, stop, because this is, there's people here who are older, sick, or whatever. And, there's one woman, she's sitting there like this, like, their automatic reaction to a comedy club is that it's filthy garbage, And then, the third guy comes out, this cute guy, and he starts telling dick jokes, and this woman's hilarious. She can't stop laughing. And, and this is how I explained, Adam Sandler early on. He didn't really have great material. He was just this adorable kid that you were like, oh, he's that kid from down the block. He's going to say something. And, he was just so charming and adorable. And even at Saturday Night Live, he hardly did that much, but you just remember the stuff, because he just had that quality about him. So it's very hard to predict how people are going to react. I know nowadays political stuff is just completely off the table because most people don't want it, except for unless the night is identified as a political comedy night.
It's like jazz.
Yeah, in the 80s and early 90s, when I was out there a lot, going to clubs like every night, there was a lot of political comics, and I'm sure you remember a lot of them. And people, if you didn't agree with them, it wasn't even that. It was just like, it's funny. It's funny to make fun of the president or whatever. And now you can't do that.
So we got in conclusion, because we're up to an hour here. I told you the time would go by quickly.
I haven't even told any of my funny stories. Go on.
All right. Pick one funny story, and then we're gonna.
I've had it now. Go ahead. What do you want?
Will you come back?
Yeah, I can segue.
Will you come back?
Maybe. I don't know.
By the way, I perfected my aglio olio.
I didn't get the spaghetti that you made. What did you make?
I made spaghetti with a leech, olives. What else was in there?
Was it good?
Capers. Oh,
What do you
Maron,
mean,
I just
good?
I finished
Well,
it tonight.
I didn't hear the final outcome.
It's
Oh, no,
just-
I finished it tonight. But I want to make. I figured out, Billy. I perfected my aglio olio. So next time I come up, I'll make that for you.
I love that.
Oh, Maron, it was so good.
Oh, Maron, no.
Oh, Maron. Listen,
When I wrote my essay, and it was in there, and I had to write, because Madonna was already like a big star, and I wrote MA-DAWN. And
people don't realize that it is Madonna. That's what it is.
I had a friend from Brooklyn, and his mother, one of the nicest, sweetest angels I've ever met. But she had only, I think, went to school to 5th grade, and then as she was in that age group, they had to go to work, whatever. And so, but she gave us a grocery list once. She was sick, and she could go to the store. And I see this thing on here, and it's like OTTAGUT, and I'm like, what is this tripe? What does she want? And he goes, arigat.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Oregata. She went, arigat. And I thought, oh my God, this is just, I'll never forget that.
It's good to be us, isn't it? Good to be us. I'm trying to make it. We're giving Kathy an Italian word. Each show I give her a word. She has to figure out what it means. Do you want to give her one so we can close out the show like this?
I don't even know what these words mean myself.
I gave her yesterday. I gave her chiacchierone.
Chiacchierone, okay.
Which is a chatterbox.
Yes.
But it comes from the verb. It comes from the noun chiacchiere, which is to chatter.
I would hear
verb actually.
Jambot, which was like a mess of stuff, but actually
that is the real word. Jambot.
I know, but if you look at other similar words to it, like jambalaya, these words are like similar. That jambalaya is like just a whole mess of stuff put together, right. And a jumble. And so jambot, if you look at the etymology of it, etymology,
I think, yeah.
One of them is whatever.
One of these words is correct.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's like a lot jumbled together. Like
yeah. So I mean, you would say, "Oh, what is this jumbo?" I mean, it could be whatever you made for dinner. It could be just a mess, and jumbo the mess. So
right, I got one for her. I got one for her to say goodbye to. All right, you ready, Kath?
Yep.
And I'll give you a clue by how I say it.
Lay it on me.
Here, watch my face. Will you watch my face?
I'm looking.
Schifoso.
Asshole.
Not exactly.
No.
Jerk off.
No. Let Bill say it. Bill, you say it. Bill, you say
it. A person who was just like kind of a slimy sort of someone who's not a
disgusting human being.
Someone who's. A guy came to the house once to sell insurance, whatever. My parents let him in. She made coffee, and he had like some kind of like skin thing, whatever. And the mother just keeps looking at him. And when he left, she threw the cup in the garbage. She wasn't gonna. Skivos! She threw it. I don't know what. She just did not like him, and she threw the cup in the garbage.
The first time I heard the word schifoso, my mother always said skivus, and I didn't know it. It must be a dialect, but I heard Ernest Borgnine say it in a movie called The Black Hand.
Oh, okay.
You remember that movie?
I don't. I heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
He played a detective. This is in like the late 50s, after Marty, I think he did it. And he was from Italy, like from Sicily, actually. And he came to America to bust the mafia up in this. And he went back to Sicily it's a true story, to arrest this guy. And they shot him over there. They killed him over there. But, they would leave a black hand to let people know, like if they killed somebody, they would have a black hand on the.
Isn't that like a mafia?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the black hand. But he called them.
Stereotype us.
Huh?
Yeah.
But don't stereotype us.
Well, but that's a truism. I mean, they did do that. But he would call. Well, Ernest Borgnine was Italian, so he could do it. Yeah. But he called him schifoso.
If you watch movies where they're going to kill somebody, they try to present them as a schifoso, so you don't mind someone. Even the guy in Godfather 2, the guy that they take over from the guy in the white suit. I forget what his name is. He drinks the Debbie test. and he's so like, and you're like, somebody kill this guy.
Yeah. Oh, but that word it's onomatopoeia. It's just exactly what it sounds like. Schifoso.
Oh.
You know,
Well, I say schif. Was your mother Neapolitan?
My grandfather's Neapolitan, and
I
they said schifus.
I never learned Italian, but when I started studying Italian, it
Uh-huh.
just that whatever came out of me when I would say certain words, and I would say scuola, whatever. And my one day my Italian teacher yelled at me and he goes, "Are you Neapolitan?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Well, stop it."
Well, yeah, because the Romans, that's they lay claim to the true Italian, don't they?
Yeah, well,
yeah. You know what I say about the Romans? Schifosi, actually.
Yeah, when you go to Italy, when an Italian American, especially from this area, goes to Italy, they like 5-year-olds will correct your pronunciation of things. Because I said I'd like a sausage, and they're like, and the woman looks at me. She was like 10, and she's like, "You mean salsiccia?" And I'm like, "Oops."
Yeah.
But that's how I don't even know what these words mean because when I try to look them up, I don't know how to spell them.
Well, that's it. I'm finding out now. Like chiacchierone, I found out. It was in my Italian lesson. I'm taking Babel. So, and I said, "Oh, look, chiacchiere." That's it. Oh, anyway, listen, we're running way too late here, Mr. Ervolino.
Oh, okay.
Billy Ervolino. I'm going to close it out like that. Billy Ervolino. Billy Ervolino. You can get, huh? You can still get this.
I see that. I know that face.
A very funny book. Very, very funny. I laughed out loud. So, you want to plug anything?
1997, so you may have some trouble finding it. But
okay, I found it online. I went and bought it online.
We did 5 printings of it, and I went to all of these bookstores over and over again. It was just great.
What do you want to plug?
Anything? I have nothing to plug.
Okay.
I have nothing to plug at the moment. My play will be in the spring. You can read me in the Record on Sundays, and that's about it.
That's the Bergen Record for those of you who don't know what
the Record is. Open and I put a lot of funny stuff.
So
this show goes worldwide.
In the spring, you'll come back.
Yeah. Okay. Did you have fun? Did you have a good time?
I did have a good time, and most fun I've had in my underwear in a long time because I'm wearing. Should I stand up? No, I'm going to show you.
No, I don't want to
boxers
see that.
or briefs.
The in between ones, whatever they're.
The boxer briefs. They're called boxer briefs, aren't they? I
don't know what they are, but they're
How's your doggy, by the way?
Charlize Navidad@Ervolino.com is fine. Charlie is fine. She doesn't come to she doesn't like
Kathy's cat is named Charlie.
Charlize. Yeah, she's very chilly. She's a coonhound. They don't have much affection.
Sweet, very sweet, very sweet dog. So.
Sweet if you pet her and give her something to eat.
All right, Mr. Guillermo.
Good night.
Guillermo Ervolino.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for being here.
We
love you.
Take care, hon.
I'll talk to you soon. Isn't he sweet? He's a sweet guy. I love him.
No, that hack.
Oh, he's a good man. So that was Bill Ervolino, folks.
He was awesome. And did you see my running thread where I kept telling everybody they were a hack?
I did see that, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I don't really mean anyone is a hack.
No, I know. You call me that all the time, so.
I know, I do.
All right, well, we're on we've done an hour and 12-minute show here, Missy. Jimmy's going to have to slice the crap out of this thing.
We love Jimmy.
We do love Jimmy. All right.
Jimmy thanks, everybody. About to hit record.
Oh, I got it. Yeah, he probably did. You see up in the upper left, corner of your screen, it says subscribe. Yep. Subscribe. Then you don't have to keep telling me, I don't know where to find the show.
I know where to find your stinking show, Julia.
Where's your stinking podcast, you stinking people? You're missing out on a lot if you don't subscribe.
Bill Ervolino. You're missing
Bill Ervolino. Bill Persky. People named
all the
Bill.
bills.
Only Bill.
You're missing your bills. That's
right. Pay your bills. Come on. Pay our bills. All right. Good night, everybody. Or whatever it is time of day you're watching this. We love you. Bye, Kath.
Bye, honey. I love you.
I love you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.